Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood follows Lloyd Vogel, who is assigned to write a story about Mr. Rogers for Esquire, cataloging him as a hero. But as a cynical writer, Lloyd spends time with the famed children's star and begins to unravel what it is that makes Mr. Rogers such a gem. So, obviously, I was excited for this film. Tom Hanks cast as Fred Rogers. I need no more explanation. That's it. That was the selling point, and I was in. But coming off of the amazing documentary about Fred Rogers from just last year, Won't You Be My Neighbor, I think that really gave us all that little bit extra jolt of excitement. And then I heard it was being directed by Marielle Heller, who directed one of my top 10 favorite films of last year, with a handful of the best performances of last year, Can You Ever Forgive Me? And I couldn't contain just how much I was looking forward to this film. Oh my gosh, I loved this movie. So let's go ahead and talk about the positives first. Well, I want to start off with Marielle Heller, who directed this just perfectly. I don't know if anyone could have directed this film better. Starting with the aesthetic, it was such an innovative and wonderful choice. It feels like a long, wonderful episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The wonderful vehicle and set design just added all the charm you were hoping for. The really innovative color palette choices made and the change in those, the performances she was able to get from her actors, which we'll talk about here in a second, was stellar. But more than all of this, what Marielle Heller did with this film was so extraordinary in the fact that we didn't explain what made Mr. Rogers special. It wasn't put onto the script to give the audience that sense of his impact and his magneticism. Marielle Heller brought that to life just as much as someone like Tom Hanks does in this film. She just explores it through creative choices of Mr. Rogers' teaching to just living and experiencing it. It's such an immeasurable feat that she's able to accomplish. I mean, it truly is amazing, and it transforms this film into the special movie that it really is. This is cinema at its finest, where the audience is transported and moved in such a way. It's hard for me to even explain, but that honestly is just how well it's done. It's beautiful to experience. And in saying that, and speaking on the direction, this movie earns all of the emotions. It stays away from like shallow sentimentality. It steers away from the manipulative emotion like tear pools. No, it earns them tears. There will be tears, and it earns every drop of water from your eyeballs. It earns all of the emotional payoff that we get. It earns the fact that you feel personally moved by Fred Rogers. Everything is earned, everything is beautiful. Just literally a perfect directing job. If she was snubbed. She wasn't really even in the conversation last year for Best Director. Give her her due, because this was something special. And then we get to the acting in this film, and I mean, it's off the charts. It's so good. Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers is pitch perfect. First of all, perfect casting. I don't know that we could have gotten anyone better to play Mr. Rogers. He was so good. But Tom Hanks, as Tom Hanks does, took it to the next level. More than just donning the cardigan and the clothes, more than affecting that voice, more than the mannerisms. Tom Hanks and Marielle Heller went beyond really an impersonation. It was an embodiment of what Fred Rogers was. And it really was a beautiful, beautiful acting job from Tom Hanks that really felt beyond a typical biopic style imitation. And then we have Matthew Rice, who is amazing in this movie. What a really deep, hefty performance that he gives. It's obviously the biggest transformative performance of the screen, and Rice is more than up to task at delivering. And then I have to call out Chris Cooper, who is wonderful in this movie. One of the best supporting actor performances I've seen in 2019. Really, everybody's great in this film. The directing and the acting, we get these really wonderful moments of levity and these beautiful glimpses of humor, of delight, of sorrow and despair. Much like with Fred Rogers himself and his television series, there's so much more. What is on the surface level? There's so much more here than you're anticipating. It goes way deeper. It's much more affecting, much more moving. And I'd be remiss to mention being moved without talking about the music, without talking about the heart, just everything. It was really a beautiful, beautiful film, and I loved virtually everything about it. What didn't work so well then when it came to A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood? Ugh, I'm struggling to even think of negatives, honestly. This movie was dang near perfect to me. I'm just gonna lay it out there. The only thing that comes to mind, honestly, for me, was the fact that we have throwaway lines hinting at deeper moments or deeper stories that were supposedly told or being there, or we would just start and just barely touch on deeper issues and deeper conversations, particularly. But we don't really delve deep into those moments. However, there's plenty of deepness to go around. There are amazing conversations to be had left, right, and center. And I think the length of the film is pretty much perfect as well. So I don't know how many of those I'd really want to go further into. But every now and then, I think there was a line that would more or less just be a throwaway for last line. But you're like, wait a minute though. Hold on before we move on to the next point. But that's it. I mean, I had to get a little bit nitpicky to even think of negatives here because I think this movie is dang near perfect. It was just a beautiful, wonderful movie that I think we all needed right now. It is a wonderful embodiment of what Mr. Rogers was to the world, was to those that knew him, I'm sure. And it was brought to life impeccably by this cast and Heller behind the camera. Go out and see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, full price, opening weekend. You're going to love it. So, that is my review of A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest video. Also, make sure to join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood? What did you think? Did you see the documentary from last year cataloging Mr. Rogers? And did you watch the show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood back in the day? Let me know in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!